Good afternoon from Aberdeenshire. Today, I thought it might be a good idea to talk about grief. Just recently, within my own circle of family and friends, there were a few losses. And to start with, let us understand what grief is. What does it mean? Grief is not just about having lost a special person in your life. It is about any kind of meaningful loss that upsets, saddens, and depresses a person. How best to deal with grief? Now, I came across an article by the famous Mayo Clinic about dealing with loss, dealing with grief, dealing with the emotions it causes. They suggest 7 tips, and I'd like to share them with you. Number 1, give yourself permission to feel. Allow yourself the emotions that the grief causes inside of you. In other words, don't repress anything. If you feel like bursting out in tears, then do so. If you feel like crying all night, do so. Allow all the emotions that come up and acknowledge why they are there and what they are trying to tell you, that you are missing someone special, and that is not a bad thing, because it means you were allowed a special and good bond and relationship. Number 2, if you're grieving about a loved one, a good idea is to sit down and write a letter to the deceased. Put down on paper all the things that you deemed very important in connection to that person, all the emotions you feel right now. Let it out, write it down. Because once you have put it to paper, you can take a deep breath and let it go. Number 3, write a journal about positive memories connected to the person you lost. I think that in particular is a very good idea, because remembering all the good things, all the great times, the laughter, the joy, the things you experienced together, all that helps you to remember the person with gratitude. Because at the end of the day, you will realize, while you are upset to not have that person in your life anymore, Really, you were blessed. You were blessed to have that person at all and to be able to fill pages with positive memories. That alone is a gift if you think about it. Number 4, talk to someone. Reach out to someone. Whether it be a friend, family member, a counselor. Just allow yourself to talk about what the lost person meant to you and about the void they left behind. Talk openly about how you feel and how you're struggling. Sometimes that alone is good enough. If you have someone who just either through having known the person themselves can say to you, yes, I do remember that as well. Or if it's a counselor, a coach, they can say, yes, it sounds like that was a very special person. And then give you some tools to work through the grieving process. Number 5, understand that grief affects everybody. Every one of us will, at some point in their life, grieve. We will lose our parents, siblings, partners, maybe even children, friends. Everyone will have to deal with the emotions of grief, with the deep pain at some point. And we will all experience grief in a different way. So be open to understand that the way you deal with it is not necessarily the way someone else would deal with it. There is no right or wrong. There is just a getting through it, understanding, accepting, and finally learning to live with the loss. Number 6, lend a supportive ear. That means that if it is not you personally who is going through grief, but maybe a close friend or relative, listen, be there for them. Give them comfort, particularly if it's a child you're dealing with. Make sure they get all the emotional support they need. It makes it so much easier for them, and really it strengthens the bond between you and that person. Because unfortunately, not everyone is cut out to be there for someone who's experiencing loss. Yet, even if they don't say it, They will need you, your friendship, your love, your comfort, and your open ear. Be a shoulder to cry on, if necessary. And finally, prepare for recurring grief. That means that grief doesn't just happen on the day of the actual loss and the following weeks. No, it will reoccur on special dates, birthdays, Christmas, certain family events, or maybe a song provokes a memory which then brings back the grief. A story you read, a movie you see. Be prepared that grief is not something that ends on a certain date and you can tick it off and lock it away. It is something, as I said earlier, that you learn to live with, that you can't push away. No, it will stay with you. So always be prepared that emotions might and most likely will resurface at certain times of the year. Now, if you have any questions or need any support or know of someone who might need support, please do not hesitate to get in touch. I'm happy to listen. And I thank you for listening to me right now. Have a lovely evening wherever you are, and I will be back midweek. Thank you.